The man I'm going to introduce needs no introduction as a testament to how many people are here to see him. So without further ado, I'm going to give it up to Mr. Gregg Bissonette. Welcome back, sir.
I'm in my home state. Woo! And the Lions are 7-2. What a game. I'm like, no, it's not 38-38. No. And then that field goal, woohoo. How about Dan Campbell, huh? And it is so great to be back in Michigan. I was walking around earlier today. Thank you, Jim. I'd like to introduce Jim Uting, our brand manager for Dixon. These are the greatest drums I've ever played, and Jim is a huge part of that. Jim and Dixon brought me here, and it's an honor to be here. I'm also sponsored today. It's mostly a Dixon clinic, but I'm also sponsored by, I love Sabian cymbals. This is Sabian also. And these headphones, great drummer headphones, direct sound headphones. But I had the most amazing afternoon with your own Tim and Matt. And how about a hand for these guys? This is my 5th time to Firehouse Guitars. And what's really emotional for me is yesterday I woke up and I was hanging with Anthony, our rep in the area for Dixon. And I said, Anthony, yeah, we're going to go to Grand Haven. And my parents used to always come in from Lapeer because we're from Warren, but they would live in LA. But in the summers, they'd go back to Lapeer to our cabin. And they'd always drive, to each time to come to the clinics. And it's really cool. You're going to see, I'm going to be playing, and there's going to be the window behind me. And I'm going to be playing drums in the window. Raise your hand if you remember the old Firehouse Guitars. So, and then Anthony, our rep, says, no. There's no more window. Now it's this beautiful, huge, amazing facility and next door. And wow, what a great, fun place to do a drum clinic. So big hand for Firehouse Music. And boy, it's just so fun. We were in Indiana yesterday. Do you know what last weekend was? Does anybody know what last weekend was among drummers? PASIC, P-A-S-I-C, Percussive Arts Society International Convention. Tens of thousands of drummers from all over the world. It was so much fun. And is Brian Biggs here today? Brian Biggs. He's on his way. He's having dinner. But he's my guitar player from my high school band. Yeah, my brother Matt and I, we had a band in high school called Grand Circus Park, named after a park in Detroit. And so Brian's coming out too. And Pete Bissonette is here, right? Where's Pete and Aaron? We don't know, we got to do 23andMe, but we met in St. Louis a few years back, and same spelling and everything, so got to be related. Well, we're all related. Anyway, so it's great to be here. Wonderful to be here. I'm going to just kind of wing it, and one of the things I've been asked to do is, years ago, I did a little medley of some songs to jam along to and get warmed up and just let you hear these great Dixon drums and great Sabian cymbals. And I want to just play along with this little medley right now. My whole theme of teaching and playing is about being well-rounded and trying to be open-minded into different styles of music. And my mom and dad used to have a band in Detroit, and we always played around town. We played all around Detroit all the time. And they said, my dad said to me, he says, you're going to go to college at North Texas State. Okay, I get it. That's a great school, and it's kind of a farm club for the Buddy Rich Band or the Maynard Ferguson Band. Woody Herman, Duke Ellington, Stan Kenton. He said, but what's your degree going to be? And I said, well, my degree is going to be a performance degree. And my dad said, but you're performing all over Detroit. You're 17 years old. You're playing in all kinds of bands. You have your band, Grand Circus Park. You play parties and weddings and big bands and all this different stuff. So why do you need a degree to perform? You don't go on an audition and bring a diploma. I said, yeah, you're right. He said, why don't you do what the sax player in my wedding band does? What does Mr. Matchelat do? He's a middle school band director. And he gets to lock his door at 3 o'clock on a Friday. And he doesn't open it up till 9 o'clock on a Monday. And he has the whole summers off. If you're a high school band director, you have football games on Friday and Saturday night. No football games in middle school. And you have band camps in the summer. And so he plays Caribbean jazz cruise gigs. So I got a degree in band directing. And I'm so happy because even though I never really did any band directing, I'm certified K through 12. But these drum clinics, to me, are a way of teaching and a way of spreading the word about music and different styles and everything. And so it's so much fun for me to get to talk about music. And I started a YouTube channel last year. Raise your hand if you know who Rick Beato is. Everybody, okay. So I'm doing a Rick Beato show in Atlanta, and he says, you should do a YouTube thing. And I said, I don't know, it seems like a lot of work. He just said, put out one a week or so. So far I have like 14. Could you all do me a big favor and subscribe to my YouTube channel? It's real easy. Just go on YouTube and type in my name and then hit subscribe. And there's a lot of videos about music, about life, about trying to just play and get gigs and play with your friends. And we're going to talk a lot about a lot of different things tonight. But one thing I'd love is if you could kind of come up with some questions. Because one of the most fun things about doing live, in-person drum clinics like this is that it's hands-on. You can come up and play the drums. If somebody wants to sit in and play something for me, that'd be for us all, that'd be great. And who you pointing to? You're pointing to your daughter, your wife, your friend, anybody. It's an open forum. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we'll do that. We'll have you guys play some stuff. But think of questions that you'd like to talk about, and we'll do it. So here's just a bunch of different styles just to kind of get warmed up. And one of the things about playing and soloing or coming up with new beats and fills in different styles, Tony Williams. Raise your hand if you know who Tony Williams was. Great. When he was 17, he got the gig with Miles Davis. And he taught me the last couple of years of his life. He passed away really young, at like 53 years old. But he said, play with songs, play with grooves, because when you do, you're playing with forms. And the forms of songs are so important. So here's a, I don't know, 15-minute little warm-up I'm going to do right now. And we'll just get going. And maybe it'll spur some questions. So this was made about 5 years ago. There's nothing newer than 5 years ago, but it's just some grooves I like a lot. Here we go. And I want to thank Kai for doing sound. Where's Kai? He's over here. Big hand for Kai. Good job. So Kai, I probably can't charge my phone and use the Apple dongle at the same time. So hopefully my battery does not run out. Here we go. That was fun, okay? Just putting on your headphones and playing along with songs, grooves. I spilled my whole tea on this wonderful carpet. Sorry, my stick bag fell over. And so did the Starbucks tea. You've got the album. Ow! Hold that up, hold that up. That was 1986. I was 26. Now I'm 64. Bump, bump. And what a blast that was, man. And the Spanish version too, who has that? Anybody? Sonrisa Salvaje. That song, Shy Boy, was timido in Spanish. Timido, 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 timido. Crazy, Going Crazy was Vuelto Loco, El Calor. So much fun. And then somebody has a little ain't enough back there, and the Edelman Smile. The Spanish version, holy cow. It's great. Look at that, man. Thank you. Man, it's great to be back in Michigan. I was thinking, because I live in Los Angeles. I left Michigan when I was like 18 to go to college. Got a music ed degree, 18 to 22. Moved to Los Angeles because that was always my dream. I wanted to be the drummer replacing Ed Shaughnessy with Johnny Carson on The Tonight Show. That was my dream. And I wanted to play in Maynard Ferguson's band. And every night before I'd go to bed, all through the day, please, Lord God, help me get to be Maynard Ferguson's drummer. And my brother Matt, who's been Elton John's bass player the last 12 years. And as of Friday night, he started playing in Vegas with REO Speedwagon. So it's crazy, you know, prayers are a big part of my life. And then I remember thinking, well, I'm back in LA. I don't want to be labeled a big band jazz drummer only. Please, God, help me get a gig with like Van Halen or Journey or Genesis, right? Well, Phil Collins and Chester, who's been here, were the drummers with Genesis. And Steve Smith, my good friend, was a drummer in Journey. But David Lee Roth leaves Van Halen, does auditions, and I get the gig playing with Dave. And it's like, wow, thank you, God. And my parents always told me, yeah, pray about it, but practice your butt off, man, because drummers, you know, music in general, super competitive industry. So to show you how competitive it was, we go to record that album, Edelman Smile, and it's the first day of recording, and we're getting drum sounds, and we do a song, just Steve Vai, Billy Sheehan, and I play this instrumental version of Tobacco Road. And we're playing, and Steve Perry was there. So he walks in the room, and Billy Sheehan is a very territorial kind of, you know, he's in Dave's band, right? So Steve Perry walks in, he goes, and there's a little friction with the lead singers, you know, Steve Perry and David Lee Roth, because Van Halen opened for Journey in 1978, and they were really well received. So Steve Perry goes, yeah, where's Dave, man? Is he at the hotel playing Rockstar? Billy goes, no, he doesn't have to play Rockstar like you. You know, like, whoa, come on, guys, go. So Steve Perry says, come here, you should audition for Journey because we just fired Steve Smith. I said, you fired Steve Smith, one of the greatest drummers and greatest people on the planet. Yeah, man, I just didn't think, like, you know, this was what. I go, you're out of your mind. He said, you should audition for Journey. I said, I'm in David Lee Roth's band, but you could be in Journey. I'm in David Lee Roth's band. So they ended up auditioning a bunch of drummers, and they got Mike Baird, and that was the Raised on Radio tour, Randy Jackson and Mike Baird. But anyway, then Steve Smith came back, and now Dean Castronova's back. So Journey, what a band. Thank you. Thank you so much. So, yeah, so then Ringo, you know, I'm thinking, well, I don't want to be labeled as just a hard rock drummer. I love the Beatles more than anything, and God, help me get a gig with Ringo, because he started this all-star band. And in 2003, I got the gig, my brother and I both, playing drums and bass in his other band, Ringo and the Roundheads. Whenever he does an album, he would do TV shows, talk shows, Letterman, you know, all that stuff, Tonight Show. And so we were the band there, and Ringo said in 2003, he says, I love playing double drums with you, brother. I'd love to have you in the all-star band, but you got to have a couple hits. And I said, well, that's never going to happen. And we laughed. And in 2008, more prayers. Hey, it's Bruce, Ringo's manager. He wants you in the all-star band. What? And that was in 2008. And we just played in Grand Rapids like a month ago, right? Was anybody there? Oh, man. What was the name of that venue? Yeah. What a fun show that was. And Ringo says, well, where's the falls? I said, I think they dammed them up 100 years ago. Is that true? No, in the 70s. I don't know. What do I know? I'm from Warren. We don't have any falls. Brian Biggs. There is the one. Brian Biggs right there. Oh my gosh, Tom, how are you, man? Good to see you guys. How long of a drive from Warren? Thank you for coming. I told you about Grand Circus Park, the band I was in high school. My brother Matt, the bass player. Brian Biggs, our guitar player and wonderful singer as well. Brian Biggs in the house. With a Detroit Tigers shirt on nonetheless. How about that Lions game? So, we played Masonic Temple, and you were there about a month ago, and man, what a game that was too, we won. Anyway, so, don't get me started. And I went to Lafayette, Coney Island. Woo! Yes. Oh, how many of you knew about or knew Dom Famularo? What a dear friend of mine. What a great man. What a great drummer. And what a light for drummers, I just want to try to be a light. And he was a light. And he inspired people to play. That's what has proved me wrong is, have a positive attitude. Think positive. Practice. Go out and jam with people. That's one of the things that Dom and I talked a lot about is that younger musicians now, they practice in their room with headphones on, but they're not playing with other musicians as much. They're not jamming. And he was just saying, like I was, play with other people, with guitar players, with bass players, with keyboard players, singers, horn players. And when you play with other people, that's why we started. That's why I started. It wasn't so like people say, well, what do you like better, playing in the studio or playing live? And I go, that's not even close because playing in the studio is super fun. And I get to do all kinds of TV shows and movies. My brother and I did the Friends show for all 10 years. All the little music that goes in between the couch scene in the bowling alley. Okay. And if everybody liked the take, if you liked what you did, you'd do like a touchdown. Jared Goff, So we would do that. And then, but that's fun, but it's not as much fun as this. I'm playing stuff and I'm seeing people smile. Ringo Starr does not tour because he needs the money. He tours because he loves to make people smile and dance. Hey, there's a guy with the pink Sgt. Pepper suit just like mine. Yeah, man. And there's a yellow submarine cutout. Yeah, he loves that. And people give him so much love. He even has a song a few years ago, a single called Give More Love. Give more love. Get more love. The love you take, equal to the love you make. So, what got me started on that question? What was your question? Dom Famularo, yeah. Woo! Oh, thank you. Dom was a great, great friend. Ringo is closer than that speaker, right? And I'm going, this is unbelievable. When we played Detroit about 10 years ago, we played at the Fox downtown, across from Ford Field and Comerica Park. And after the sound check, I said, hey, Ringo, when I was a kid, I got to see you play. He said, how old were you? He says, how old were you? I said, well, I was 7. It was 66, your second tour. And my dad was playing a wedding at the Ambassador Hotel. And he came out, and there were thousands of screaming teenagers, and mostly girls just like, ah! And my dad said to his friend, he told this story so much I know his name, Bob, the food and beverage manager, what are all these people screaming for? He said, Bud, the Beatles are staying upstairs in the hotel. They're staying here? Oh, I love the Beatles. My wife and I love the Beatles. Our kids love the Beatles. And my dad, being the tasty bread man during the day and jazz drummer at night, said, Bob, any chance of putting me close to 6 tickets for tomorrow? He goes, are you kidding me? It's the Beatles. They've been sold out for 6 months at Olympia Hockey Arena where Gordie Howe and the Red Wings play. Okay, but come back after your gig. You're a good guy. So my dad goes back into the bar, 1 a.m., and Bob says, Bud, I have good news and bad news. Yeah? I got you 6 tickets for tomorrow night to see the Beatles, but it's going to cost you $36 total, $6 a ticket. And my dad's thinking, well, I'm making $50 on the gig. I'll clear 14 kids. We're going to see the Beatles. So I tell Ringo that, at backstage at the Fox, and he says, after sound check, brother, let's get a car and we'll go and visit it. I said, well, Ringo, unlike London or Liverpool or England or Europe, in America, we don't really keep buildings of historical significance. Olympia Hockey Arena is now a parking lot. He's like, oh, man. But it was sure fun telling that to him. So, great question. I love these questions, yes. Yeah. What a great question. I was told years ago by the great Lenny DiMuzio, always repeat the question because someone in the back might not have heard it. How do you hold your sticks? Do you hold them real tight or do you hold them loose? And I grew up playing traditional grip, and then traditional grip later when I started really watching Ringo. He never does this. Ringo does this. And so I also was in college, was playing marimba and xylophone and four-mallet marimba, timpani and chimes and marching band. Everything was this. So I said, I'm not going to practice my butt off on traditional grip anymore. Plus, I was getting these really weird, like, sores right here, because that's a fleshy part of the hand. And it was like, ah! So I started doing traditional grip. But I realized later on, actually with David Lee Roth, 1985 to 2000, 85 to 92, 7 years, I went to a doctor one time because I said, why are my fingernails black? I wasn't a goth guy. He said, well, what do you do? And I said, well, I'm a drummer. He says, you know what? I do one of the high school pitchers, and they're throwing these 90-mile-an-hour balls, and you're doing this. Are you doing this kind of thing? I said, yeah, every night. It's mostly my right hand. And he said, well, you don't probably need to hit quite that hard. I said, David Lee Roth wants us to hit hard. You know, my monitors are the size of refrigerators. It's like kick drum, kick drum, kick drum, snare, snare. So I'm hitting really hard, and so he gave me this stuff called DMSO. That's what they put on horses' thighs when they can't run a race. I'm going, wow. It was like some serious liquid, and I stopped doing that, putting it on my hands. I just started loosening up more. And when I had to hit the drum, instead of going, bow, and my hands shaking like Max Weinberg, the Bruce Springsteen's drummer, he's had 7 operations on his hand because he's hitting hard and he's holding the sticks so hard that it's like, and it goes here and it messes with the wrist and it goes up the shoulder. So when I hit, I did a hit and release like this. Now that doesn't work when you're playing soft, but there's no problem when you're playing soft. I use a fulcrum where on these Vickford sticks, I do on the flag, I put my fulcrum right there, and I tape up my thumbs because in California we're getting something called the Santa Ana winds. Here comes those Santa Ana winds again. And your skin just dries out. And when your skin cracks by your fingernails, it can be the littlest crack, but it's like, So I tape them up with this Johnson & Johnson. My daughter used it for ballet on her toes. So I tape them up, it's waterproof. And so I don't have to really grip them hard. If you keep them kind of loose, then your fingers you won't have arthritis and pain problems in your hand, but you also won't have carpal tunnel, and that goes into your wrist and your shoulders and the whole bit. So just try to be loose. Ringo's really loose when he plays. And he plays in the middle of the snare drum on verses. And he plays choruses, rim shots. Here's the middle of the snare. Here's a rim shot. So he'll play verse. And I've noticed lately, really being a Beatle fan, the kick drum pattern that I hear the most, especially on early Beatle albums, isn't this. And it's not this. And it's not this. It's actually this. Say the word and you'll be free. Say the word and be like me. That's one song that comes to my mind. But you hear him and Paul, doom, 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 Taxman. Boom, bum, bum, boom, boom, boom. And so I hear that pattern a lot. Well, when he goes to the chorus, he goes to the bell of the cymbal. He doesn't play here on the outside. This cymbal is over here. He plays on the inside. And I said, that's interesting that you play on that inside of the bell. He says, why? What do you do? I said, well, I play on the outside here. He says, why? And I said, well, I guess when I was in college and I was watching drum videos, I always saw Steve Gadd go. I'd have a hard time going. He goes, well, if Steve Gadd does it, it must be right. And he's really good friends with Steve Gadd. Steve played on one of his albums. Anyway, he's so funny. But yeah, rim shots and bell on the chorus. 1, 2, back to the verse. And what that tells you is the drummer really controls the dynamics. We're often not writing the songs. We're often not writing the lyrics, unless you're Neil Peart, who wrote the lyrics for Rush. We're often not playing the wheedly solos, and the girls, the guitar players always get all the girls. Anyway, not always, but a lot of times. But we can sure control the dynamics and the tempo. Number one, yes. Well, the question is, once a drummer has found their style, what can you do to continually evolve that style? And I don't really know, because I don't think I have a style. I've always loved being a chameleon and trying, boom, 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 boom. It's like, what's up with that? Hey, what's up with chameleon? Sorry. I don't think I have a style. I think I just love different kinds of music so much that I want to try to copy everything I can copy. So I would imagine people like Steve Gadd, who have a style, or at least some beats that they've played that you go, that's a Gadd beat. Or this kind of thing, you know. Or Jeff Porcaro. Or those styles. Those guys are also chameleons. They can play anything, any style. So to me, the way I like to grow as a drummer is with YouTube, actually. I'm now a big YouTube fan. You can find everything on YouTube. You can find tracks without the band, just the drums. You can find any performance. And when I teach, I love to teach. I used to have a whole wall full of cassettes. And then I had a whole wall full of CDs. And I'd go, wait a minute, I want to show you Tower of Power, Soul Vaccination. I want to show you how David Garibaldi did it with the band. Hold on a second. Where's that CD? And like 10 minutes later, the kid's going, I've only got an hour. And I finally find the CD. Then I put it on my CD player, and it's going, so back, so back. But now you just have a computer or an iPad or my iPhone, and I have YouTube Premium, so I don't have to deal with any dumb ads. And I just $10 a month premium, so I just type it in, and there it is. So I have a computer right here, I have my headphones, and I just go in to my drum room, and I just go, what do I want to steal, rip off, borrow, play now? And so there's a lot of drum lessons on. Like, one of the hardest things for me is this style that Questlove, Anderson .Paak, Chris Dave, Mike Mitchell, they can do. And I don't do well with it. What's it called? Neo-soul, there's another term, drunk drumming, they call it. Because in Detroit, there was a DJ that did albums, and his name was Jay Dilla. And before the thing, what? Dilla. Jay Dilla, but they just call him Dilla. Dilla Beats. How come you didn't raise your hand with the drunk drumming? Come on, man. So Dilla Beats, okay. So Dilla Beats, to me, just don't sound good. And my kids are like doing this, oh, Dad, that's so cool. And they're moving their head like this. I go, where's the downbeat? No, Dad, this is cool. Like D'Angelo or all these artists. And instead of this beat right here, you know. And I've worked my whole life with a click track's going. I'm trying to play right in the groove and not slam, play right where it is. And then, wow, good take, okay, you know, now we can overdub guitar solo, whatever. I want to be with the click. I want to bury the click. And now it's hip to do this. Instead of this, it's hip to go. And I'm not doing it justice, but my kids are going, yeah, that's so cool. And I'm going, it's the Emperor's clothes. Who remembers the Emperor's clothes? Well, for those of you youngsters, there's a parade going by. And everyone's going, wow, don't the Emperor's clothes look great? The Emperor's not wearing any clothes. What are you talking about, man? That's the Emperor. Those are his great new clothes, his tailors right there. Oh, yeah. Oh, those clothes are great, man. I wish I had some clothes like that. That's what it feels like. The Emperor's clothes, yes. Right. It's in the middle, and I get in the middle. I get in the middle, like with New Orleans drumming. I took several lessons on New Orleans drumming, and they say, well, if you're in Michigan and you're shoveling snow, you remember you're a kid, you're shoveling snow, and you hit a crack in the sidewalk, and the handle goes, I hated that, right? Or if you're in California, you don't shovel snow, but you cut the grass, and the grass gets on the sidewalk, and you sweep the sidewalk, but in those little cracks, there's grass in there. So you go, turn the broom, and you go, and the grass is out of the cracks. These New Orleans guys say, man, don't sweep the grass out of those cracks. You live in those cracks. What? Well, if it's not triplets, you know, but it's not eighth notes. It's right in the middle. And I said, well, play a song for me, because I don't really get that. So they played this song. This was my teacher's song, and it's Stanton Moore. This was my teacher, by the way. I love taking lessons. I love giving lessons, but I love taking lessons. And Stanton Moore says, play with some zig. What do you think that means? Play to some zig. Boom. What's your name? Joe. Joe Bradley. Pockway by the meters. And who was the drummer? Ziggy, what's his real name? Zigaboo. Zigaboo Modal East. So he said, play with Hey Pockway, you'll understand. So I did this. Oh, I gotta unplug my charger. Put it on dongle. There's the dongle. Here we go. Here's Zigaboo Modal East. Let's all try this first with our hands on our thighs. Sit up straight and go bop, 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 right, left, if you're right-handed, or left, right, left, right. If you're left-handed. Now put your bass drum, Now put your hi-hat on. That's what he's doing. But it's not straight, like eighth notes, and it's not swung like sixes. It's like you said, what's your name? Quinn Martin Production. Quinn, the mighty Quinn. You've not seen nothing like the mighty Quinn. Anyway, there you go. So Quinn, fives. Fives are hard, like 1, 2, 1, 2. One, two, three, four, five, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. You want to mess up a band, play 1, 2, and instead of this, do fives. What? So fives are like these in the cracks kind of things. Let's play that beat again. Ready? Now play it with Ziggy. So that's that in the middle kind of a thing where you're not really but you're not you're the snow is in the crack. You live in that crack. Any questions about that stuff? Yes. Absolutely. Who are some of my influences growing up, and who are some of the drummers I'm currently listening to? I have to say Ringo first, John Bonham, Buddy Rich, Louis Bellson. Louis took communion at my wedding. He was at my dad's funeral. I was a pallbearer at his funeral. The nicest guy you'd ever meet, like Dom. What's it with the Italians anyway? Famularo, Belson, Bellasoni, Caliuta, Porcaro, Gad, Donati, Lang. Wait, that's Austrian. Yes, sorry. Thomas Lang is one of my best friends. He lives down the street. Yes. Okay. What kind of music do I recommend to play along with? That's going to go with the second half of your question. Drummers that I really love now. I really love Dave Grohl's drumming, and we're really good pals. We played a concert together a couple months ago for Taylor Hawkins' son Shane, who's 16, and he's great. I really love this young lady named Mandy Bushell. You know Mandy? Chad Smith, who's also from Michigan. He's from Troy. Well, he's from Birmingham, Michigan. We did a whole drum channel thing with Mandy. She was 12, and she says she's from her dad's from Liverpool, and her mom is Zulu from South Africa. And she said, could you show me how to play, very proper English, could you please show me how to play a samba? You know, like this. And Chad and I are on the floor. You're doing it! You know, watch that video. Go on YouTube and type in N-A-N-D-I, Mandy, Chad Smith, and I, and you'll just be amazed. I said, so what are you doing tomorrow? She said, well, tomorrow night at the Forum, which is a big LA, it's like Little Caesars Arena or something, I'm playing with the Foo Fighters. It's like, you're playing with the Foo Fighters and you're 12. What song? Everlong. What? And YouTube that. So I love Mandy. I love her energy. I love so many drummers. David Garibaldi is kind of still a then and a now guy. When I first moved to LA, he's the first drum lesson I took in 1982. And to show you how cool David Garibaldi was then, and he still is now, I took about a 3-hour lesson. It went into the 4th hour, and he's showing me all these cool ideas and stuff. And then I do the reach, you know, the reach, like you're gonna get the check, you know. Like, here comes the bill, and you do that. I do the reach for my wallet. I said, what do I owe you, David? Ah! Where's my brother when you need him? I do the reach, and I said, what do I owe you, David? It's been 4 hours. I didn't have much money with me because I was right out of college. He said, man, you're new in town. Buy me a pizza sometime. 4-hour lesson. And then he says, so what are you doing in LA? I said, nothing. I'm just trying to get work. I'm rearranging my sock drawer, rotating the air on my tires, alphabetizing my canned goods. He says, hold on. And he calls the Merv Griffin musical director because he was auditioning the next day for the Merv Griffin show. He says, Mort Lindsay. Ba, 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 da, ba, 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 ba. He said, there's a guy here from North Texas. Can you read? He reads really well. Were you in the 1 o'clock lab band, the top lab band? Yes, he was. What are you doing Thursday at 3? Nothing. He gets me a gig auditioning for the Merv Griffin show, which meant you got paid like $350 to do a 45-minute show. And the first guest was, speaking of Detroit, Mary Wells from the Supremes. So that's my first gig in LA because of David. Well, when I started talking to David, Quinn, about the drunk drumming thing, he got really into it. And he starts writing all this stuff out and sending me MP3s of him doing it in the practice room. And he's an expert at it because that's the kind of mind he has. So Tower of Power, one of my favorite bands. I just love drummers that, like Bill Stewart, for instance. He's one of my favorite newer jazz drummers that just sounds like Tony Williams and Elvin Jones and everybody wrapped into one. So, great questions. Yes. Hey. Let's jam. In Warren. Where was the old place? Troy. Oh man, Gino Vanelli. I was such a fan of Storm at Sunup and Just to the Gemini and Brother to Brother and Nightwalker. And I became roommates with Mark Cranny, the drummer on Brother to Brother. And we were just best pals. And he passed away. He had really bad what was his thing? He had to cut off his toe, and he had a kidney failure. He became a diabetic when he was 13, and he just didn't really have good health. Anyway, he was subbing for Garibaldi in Tower of Power, and they took the plane down too fast at Burbank Airport, and it shocked his kidneys, and he was on dialysis. We threw a big, huge benefit for him in LA, and it was really fun to get to support him. But anyway, I auditioned for Gino Vannelli's band in 1984, beginning of 85. And my brother auditioned, and my girlfriend was the keyboard player, and we got the gig. And we played Brother to Brother. We did American Bandstand, Dick Clark, and then they were going to do a tour in Europe, but then they weren't sure that the tickets were selling the way they wanted. And I got the David Lee Roth gig, right? So imagine calling Gino Vannelli and telling him that you can't do this tour in 3 months. That might not happen anyway, but that you got this other gig with this guy that left Van Halen and started his own band. I said, Gino, hey man, how you doing? Doing good, but I feel kind of awkward. I can't do the tour in 3 months because I just got this really cool gig with Steve Vai and Billy Sheehan. Not that I was expecting him to know who they were. And with David Lee Roth, we're going to do an album and a world tour, and it's a band thing. And he goes, I'm happy for you. Now, this is what he says. I'm sure you'll make a lot more money, but the music won't be as good. Only a very proud Italian. Hey, come on, Gino Vannelli. But I love Gino. And his brother Ross is a great friend of mine too. And Joe Vannelli. So great question. Gino Vannelli, Storm at some. Is that Graham Lear? Yeah, Graham Lear. Is that Randy Wickstrom? You got to be kidding me. This guy, turn around for a second, just kind of turn this way, with the green hat and the maroon Marauder shirt is Randy Wickstrom. Now, if I'm 64, you're 65, 66? So, I'm in the 7th grade. I'm in the 6th grade. I'm still in elementary school. And he's in the 8th grade. And all I know is I go in for my drum lessons with a guy named Bob Yarborough. And Bob is telling me about how important it is to get my rudiments together. And I'm going, well, I want to work on my rudiments. But my favorite thing to do is go down in the basement and put on my headphones to Three Dog Night. Jeremiah was a bullfrog. Bum, bum, bum. And he goes, no, that Jeremiah was a bullfrog. It's a cool song, but you really need to know your rudiments. Your 5-stroke rolls, your 7-stroke rolls, your 9-stroke rolls, paradiddles, paradiddle-diddles. All these rudiments, and I'm going, okay, but what do I need to learn them for? He said, well, there's a couple of guys. They're a few years older than you. One's named Daryl Sharam, and the other guy is that guy right over there. And I go, oh, that's Randy Wickstrom. Yes. And he's just ripping it up on the snare drum, and I'm going, oh, my face is going like this. I could never do that. I could never do that. And Bob's going, well, practice. Here's a pad. I want you to work on Haskell Harbuck 1, Haskell Harbuck 2, the Podemsky book, working on all these rudimental books. And I'm practicing, and I'm practicing. And my inspiration was my mom is upstairs. You know, we have basements. You have basements in Grand Rapids? No basements in LA. That's why they have garage bands. In Michigan, you have bands that practice in the basement, like Grand Circus Park. So my mom's upstairs making dinner, and she'd flash the lights. And the lights could mean one of two things. Dinner's ready? Okay. Go up, eat dinner. Always hungry. 13 years old. Or number 2, that doesn't sound like the rudiments Mr. Yarborough wants you to practice. Tornado, or The Pinecone Forest by John S. Pratt. Jeremiah was a pope. And then she's flashing the lights, and she says, I'm not going to pay $6 a half hour for lessons if you don't practice. Okay, so my inspiration, Randy, you don't even probably know this. I might have told you years ago, but I would just practice, and I would envision you walking down my stairs and coming into the basement and going like this. Like, what you got? I'm going to practice this, man. Thank you for the inspiration. Warren, Randy Wickstrom is here at my clinic. Yes. Yes. Neil was the coolest guy, and he didn't really know a lot about improvisation and jazz, so he started studying with a good friend of Buddy Rich, Freddie Gruber. And he was telling me that, because we did this Burning for Buddy album in New York, and we're walking to the sessions every day, and he says he's studying with Freddie Gruber, and he's working on, some of the Buddy songs. And I said, well, you should come over to my house. I have 2 drum sets set up. And he only lived about a half an hour away from me in California. So he came over, and I said, Neil, what do you want to play? And he honestly said, could we just play in 3/4 all day? I said, of course. Like, what kind of 3/4? Like jazz 3/4? Or Afro-Cuban 3/4? Or funk 3/4? Or rock 3/4? He said everything. And I want to solo and learn more about soloing. So basically, we played all day, and every time I would do something, and I would want to trade, he goes, no, I just want to kind of hang out today and play some time, and next time we play, we'll trade. And there was no next time the last time. He just didn't tell anybody about what he was going through with the brain cancer and all that stuff. So, but he was so inquisitive. Neil was so inquisitive about everything. I used to have a boat on the lake nearby, because I'm from Michigan. And that's what people from Michigan do. We had a man-made lake in Westlake Lake, and the lake next door to it was called Sherwood Lake, and it was dug out and filled in 1946 when Errol Flynn did Robin Hood. And so there's Sherwood Lake and Westlake Lake, and we're going around in my boat, we're eating Quiznos subs, and every fish that would pop out of the water, every bird that would land, he knew the name of all of them. The guy was just so smart. And we talked about, growing up in where he lived in Canada, not far. Hamilton, I think. Anyway, I'm losing some of you. Am I talking too much? But Neil was such a great guy. Quinn. Say that again? Yeah, my dad always played Zildjian, and I always did too. And then it came down to, I'm just going to speak the truth. I still love Zildjian cymbals, but they had a marketing shift where they didn't really want to do this. And I love doing this. And I love doing clinics and talking and hands-on and everything else. And Sabian, which, it's the brother of Armand, and he went to Canada and named Sabian after his 3 kids. The first 2 letters of each name. Sally, S-A, Billy, B-I, and Andy. So anyway, Sabian said, we really want you to play our cymbals. And I loved them, and they loved being a part of things like today. So it was just one of those things, It's kind of like there's a pie. And the pie in the music business is, half of the pie is how you play and how much you practice and how good your tempo is. Tempo is everything, everything. Counting out the band at the right tempo. Like Ringo saw this little Tama rhythm watch over here. He goes, what's that box, brother? I said, well, that's called a song starter. I didn't want to say, it's a Tama rhythm watch. Oh, 1, 6, 7, 5, 7. I said, it's a song starter. He said, I thought you were starting the songs because I hate starting songs. Paul always counted the songs off. 1, 2, 3, 4. Guess how Paul counted off the first song on the Ed Sullivan Show? What was the first song on the Ed Sullivan Show? Close your eyes. Okay. So instead of this, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Close your eyes. No. Instead of this, 1, 2, 1. Close your eyes. This is how Paul McCartney, you can YouTube it. starts All My Lovin'. Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Close your eyes. I was like, what? 5? He counted to 5, man. So anyway, Ringo's like, okay, the song started. So tempos are the most important thing. If you can get the tempos, everybody wants to do the song. Like Todd Rundgren. Todd's got his big hit. I don't want to work. I just want to. Very good. And so that might be the record tempo. And I got it like 132 or something. I go, Todd, where do you like to play? Bang on the drum all day. He goes, well, we'll just jam. I go, no, I really want to get the tempo. Play it a little bit. He's going, oh, that's like 136. He said, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm tapping it in so I can count it off that tempo every night. He goes, can you do that? This is Todd Rundgren, the guy that produced Grand Funk American Band when he was 12, you know. I go, yeah, I can do that. So anyway, the number one thing is tempo. But where was I going with this? Cymbals. Whew. So there's a pie. Don't turn 64, I'm warning you. I'm 64, I'm too young for Medicare, too old for women to care. Rodney Dangerfield. So there's a pie, and the pie is about half of it is counting off the song at the right tempo. Knowing your rudiments, knowing your feels, knowing all the different styles, knowing dynamics. And the other half of that pie has nothing to do with any of that. And it's what kind of person are you? Are you somebody that they're going to want to have in their band on a tour bus that turns into a vacuum-packed submarine as soon as the gig is over, and if anybody's kind of a pant load, they're out? You got to be cool. You got to be funny. You got to be someone that's compassionate, and you don't put people down. I know so many musicians that have been fired from bands because they are insecure, and they think it's cool to put people down. Like, yeah, so-and-so, man, last night, tonight, this was so horrible. And if you have a problem with somebody in your band, first of all, don't say it in front of the band. Call them over to the side and say, you know, bro, I got this loop going. But you're going, and you're rushing so bad that I have to turn you off. Could you just kind of lay back a little bit? And you got the bass player whose girlfriend just broke up with him. We just play together? And the guitar player that just had a triple mocha choca latte yaya and he's buzzing, you know? So talk to them individually. Don't call people out in a group because it puts people on the defensive. The other thing is try complimenting people. Just give them a compliment and it'll go so far. Steve Lukather, one of my favorite guitar players, and Brian, you were just at the show with Luke. He's one of the greatest guitar players ever, but he was doing this song. It was a Richard Page for Mr. kind of slide guitar part. And I said, Luke, of all your solos every night, Rosanna, Hold the Line, whatever it is, Africa, I just love the solo with the slide that you play, all that. He goes, really? Steve Lukather. He goes, really? Really, bro? I said, yeah, it's amazing. I crank you in my ears because it's so in the groove. And the tone is so great. And the slide, it's my favorite solo all night. And he's like, wow, man, thanks. And I could see that it just lifted him up. Try to lift people up in the workplace, no matter what you do, in a band especially. But that's the other half of the pie. The half that just kind of doesn't have anything to do with playing or what brand of cymbals you're using. It just has to do with people skills. I went into do you have Whole Foods here? I went into a Whole Foods in Los Angeles 3 weeks ago, and this young lady, she's about 19. It's like no connection. She's just one of those, I stare at my phone, I stare at my computer, I don't talk to people. God forbid I would insult them or say the wrong thing and be canceled. So Maroon 5, old Maroon 5 is playing, and it's not the, it was another, and I just said, wow, old Maroon 5. I love Maroon 5 when the drummer was playing and the whole band, and she's like this. And so I said, so what's your name? She said, Allison. I said, Allison, man, so do you like music? And the other gal, she says, I only have, Spotify, and so she starts talking a little bit, but it was so uncomfortable just trying to get that dialogue going. If you're younger and with your friends, if you could just look each other in the eye. I'll tell you something about Ringo Starr. He's 83 years old, 83 years young. He's the healthiest guy I know. He's a vegan. He's an exercise guy. He's got ripped abs and cut arms, and he's full of peace and love. And when you talk to him, and he's Ringo, he doesn't have to pay you the time of day. He looks at you, how you doing, brother? Not just like, hey, how you doing? See you later. How you doing, brother? And you say something, and he's listening to you. He's looking at you in the eyes. And then, believe it or not, he responds with the last thing you said. Oh, you didn't sleep so great, man. Yeah. Well, I do a little bit of melatonin. And then you talk, and you have this dialogue. That's what's supposed to happen. That's what we were made to do. Not be like staring at our phones and afraid to talk to people because you don't want to offend somebody. I'm offended that you're offended. So anyway, yes. I didn't tune these, but Jim tuned them. I like to tune the top head to the same pitch as the bottom head. For me, if this top head is going, this bottom head's a little tighter. And I usually, there's a guy named John Good, who was a friend of ours, and John Good has this thing where he likes to tune the drum heads to the pitch of the wood. If he goes boom, boom on the wood, he'll go boom, boom, boom on the top head, boom, boom, boom. And he says that the top head goes boom, and the bottom head goes boom, and the drum itself goes boom. And when you hit it, boom. And Jim and I were talking earlier today. We did an interview, and we talked about Steve Lukather again. And Steve said, whose floor tom's ringing so much? And it wasn't Ringo's, it was mine. So Jeff Jonas, my drum tech, took the rubber foot off mine, and it went from doom to like doom, doom. He goes, oh, that's great, because it was bugging his in-ears. I want drums that sing, that resonate, and I love the pitch of these drums. Kind of like the Wizard of Oz. Who's seen the Wizard of Oz? Remember this scene? Oh, that scared the heck out of me when I was a kid. And the Toto runs out, and the Cowardly Lion jumps out the window. But I like to tune to those kind of intervals. And the thing about these Dixon drums is they're thin. They're 4mm thin maple shells, and they project. You can get a ringing, resonant drum deader by putting gaffer tape. I don't recommend duct tape. I like gaffer tape because it doesn't leave a residue. You like Winnie the Pooh? You don't know who Winnie the Pooh is. You do. Winnie the Pooh's kind of going by the wayside for it. Oh, yeah, what's happening with a SpongeBob? But I got this gig doing Winnie the Pooh's voice from playing on a thing with my brother. And I said, hey, Matt, do you have a DS and a Coda? I don't have a DS and a Coda. And the guy from Disney goes, come here. That's the voice we need for Winnie the Pooh. What? So I studied Winnie like crazy. I tell people I used to transcribe Vinny Colaiuta. I used to transcribe Vinny. Now I transcribe Winnie. Oh, bother, I need a small smackerel of honey. Do you know where or whereabouts I could find a small smackerel of honey? Oh, bother. Anyway, it's super fun. So you could do gaffer tape, you could do moon gel, you could do Ringo tea towels, like dish towels, thin dish towels, and get a resonating drum to be a little deader. But you can't get a dead drum to go doom if it goes boink. Yes, way in the back. What's that? Yes. Yeah, the answer is yes. Do I have any hearing loss? I don't have enough to where I need hearing aids yet, but certain 2.5K from the cymbals right here. Snare drum, clank. Monitor's too loud, in-ear's too loud. For some reason, my right ear is not picking up the real. And my daughter's 22. She's in Boston at Berklee College of Music. And my son's 25. He's in LA. And I hear my son fine. But sometimes when my daughter talks up here, I'm like, what? What'd you say? And Mary, just speak a little louder. And I used to have this song at Disneyland. I can't hear you with these ears, cymbals ringing many years. And so, okay, Dad, I'll talk a little louder. But I'm not quite at that point yet where I need them, but I'm going to get them. Because my dad, he was always at these Firehouse Guitar clinics. My dad would not get hearing aids. And there'd be conversations at the NAMM show around the table, and somebody would crack a joke, and the punchline could be, Elvin Jones, Coltrane. Yeah. And my dad, a minute later, what about Elvin Jones, Coltrane? Dad, they just talked about that. And I don't want to do that. I want to be aware of what's going on. So nothing really bad yet, but I've always worn hearing protection. And lately, I wear these. You get these at CVS. They're swimmers silicone. And you put those in, and man, it's like, the big thing I try to avoid, because I travel a lot, is this. Housekeeping! Housekeeping! Oh, there's a sign that says, do not disturb. Oh, they don't look, So I don't even hear that. Because I have these in there all the way. And I have two white noise machines. One that goes, which is an alarm, and it will go at 9 a.m. And the white noise shuts off. And then my iPad, which is a lower YouTube fan. I got 10 minutes. I'm going deep into things I shouldn't be going deep into. But no big problems yet. Randy Wickstrom has a question. Oh, man, thank you. Thank you, Randy. Oh, man, this guy what was it like to perform at the Buddy Rich Memorial? This guy right here, Dom Famularo, he put that together. And not the one that you've seen, where you see Steve Gadd, Vinnie Colaiuta, Dave Weckl playing a trio, then you see Dennis Chambers and Louis Bellson and I playing a trio. That's not what Dom put together. Dom put together an event where he played, and he was a Sabian guy. Joe Morello played, and he was a Paiste guy. Buddy Rich's real best friend, Al Miller, was also a Sabian guy. And somebody else played too. Jim Chapin played, and he was Paiste or Sabian. But then it comes down to just politics, and marketing. And so that was never videoed. That was in Long Island a year before. And the next year, Kathy Rich, Buddy Rich's daughter, she funded it through Zildjian. And so Dom was out, and Joe Morello was out, and Jim Chapin was out, and Dennis Chambers came in, and we did a trio. Before that, I did a duo with Louis. So the biggest lesson, the biggest takeaway I got from the Buddy Rich thing is I don't know how many it was, maybe 32, something like that. But all I could think about was, and Dave Weckl and I were sitting there warming up. One of the best practice pads you could ever have is the bottom of the side of your shoe. So like this. Paradiddle. Flames. So we're warming up, and we see Steve Gadd walk by. Steve Gadd, right? And he's going like this. And of course, I had to say, Steve, how's it going, man? Hey, all right, come on. What are you doing? Oh, I'm just getting the tempo for the song I'm about to go count off. That's important. So he goes out there and he goes like, ladies and gentlemen, from Rochester, New York, and the Eastman School of Music, and Chick Corea, and Chuck Mangione, and Paul Simon, 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover, Steve Gadd. He's still going like this. And he sits down, he greets the band, and he's still doing this. And you see the trombone players like shaking their spit valves, and they're doing this. And they're doing it in tempo. And everybody's got this tempo, and he doesn't just go, A 1, 2, 3. He goes, ready? Everybody good? Yeah. We're good. Okay. A 1, 2. A 1, 2. 2, 3. And the band is ba ba boo ba doo doo. They are so locked in. The band knew his tempo, and they were ready to go from bar one. That's the most important thing for the drummer. You really need to pick the right tempo, hold the right tempo, convey it to the band. Randy, great question. Yes. With Jeff? Well, you read book 1. Book 2 is about to come out in 2 weeks. We're talking about Jeff Porcaro, and we're talking about Robin Flans, who wrote a book about Jeff. And Jeff was a really good friend of mine. And he had issues with his hands. You know, you'd go see him play at the baked potato, and he'd like pull my fingers apart, you know. And he had all these arteries of like a 100-year-old, you know. And but he loved to play. And he passed away at 37 years old. But the body of work that Jeff Porcaro did is just mind-boggling. And what a great soul. And I know his dad really well. And when Jeff died, I got to play. Steve Lukather wanted something completely different than Jeff with Toto because it would have been too close. So they got the great Simon Phillips in the band. And Simon had played with Jeff Beck, there and back, Stanley Clarke, Judas Priest, The Who. And they got him and the double bass. It was really different than Jeff. But then Simon had some problems with his back and his neck. And I did a whole tour with them in Europe. And man, you see this big picture, as big as that wall of guitars of Jeff. And then right here is Mike Porcaro, who looked just like Jeff. And you're just going, wow, this is heavy. The groove is so deep with Jeff. And I knew his dad really well. I remember my first gig after the David Garibaldi Merv Griffin show thing was the Jerry Lewis Telethon. And Jerry Lewis is there, and Elvis is director. Joe Garcia, he's counting the songs off. And Joe Porcaro, who plays marimba on Africa. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. And Toto had just won all the Grammys. And I've been playing in a band with my brother and Bob Birch, a great bass player went to Wayne State from Detroit. And I was playing Rosanna, and I said, hey, Joe, this is Jeff's dad. I said, hey, Joe, check this out. Rosanna, yeah. And afterwards, I'm going, he's going to love this. And Joe looks at me and he goes, that's pretty close. That's pretty close. I mean, nobody can play that like Jeff. Yes. Which one? Can you come up and play it for me? Come on. No? I don't know that one. These change? Like these changes, Buddy Miles? Toto song? I don't know that one. We didn't do that one. Sorry. You stumped me. Oh, man. Oh, what about Black Friday? And what about, man, so many. Hold the Line. We do that every night. And then the verse. Those little, intricacies. He didn't play double bass, and he played that really cool single bass, kind of Bonham-y. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. His right hand, he used this thing his dad told him, which is where you kind of do the molar grip, like. I keep forgetting we're not in love anymore. I keep forgetting that we'll never be the same again. He's really going da, 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 but like a snake. He's not going like that. He's using that molar technique. One more question. Yes. What is my favorite song to play? Okay, how old are you? I was 12. And sorry kids, I did not like math. I didn't like algebra. I didn't like geometry. I really didn't like algebra 2. And even when division, multiplication, addition, subtraction, I was rocking. I was winning the flashcard contest. But as soon as long division with the remainder started happening, I'm looking out the window. Wow, it's Warren, Michigan, and the windows are open. It's May. It's getting pretty warm. And look at Susan Hopp in the front row. What a babe. I just couldn't concentrate until Miss Anthony, our 6th grade teacher at Wildwood Elementary, she said, if anybody has a radio and they'd like to bring it in, you can bring it in and put it in the back of the room and listen to some music while we do the long division. I have a radio, and I had this big old red plug-in radio. And of course, I turned it to WRIF, Arthur Punello Rock and Roll. And this song comes on the radio. And I'm just like, oh, and all the hairs on my arm stood up, and I went, wow. Because this guitar tone was like nothing I'd ever heard before. And the drum groove was quarter notes on the hi-hat, not to, it was like, go, go, go. And I later asked the drummer, why did you play quarter notes? That's so cool. He said, that was take 46 and my hand was tired. But and all of a sudden I hear this tone. No bass, just guitar. Bow, 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 bow. And then the bass. All right now, baby, it's all right now. And that fill right there, that's after the guitar solo. And then at the end, So even now, when I hear that song, I just go back to the 6th grade and Susan Hopp in the front row and the birds outside. And I'm like, oh, life is good. So anyway, we probably have to stop. One more question, yes. Yeah, and it's called cortisone injections. I have a great hand specialist. Oh, you shouldn't do cortisone. Well, I got a great hand guy from UCLA, and sometimes you get trigger finger, and you go, ah. Well, he says, I don't think there's anything wrong with every couple of years a little, ah. But I swim a lot, I do the exercise bike a lot, and I walk a lot. And I try to do what Ringo does, which is just, you can't worry about everything. You're not supposed to worry. You're supposed to just live your life and do the best you can. And yeah, there's things happening all over the world, but you don't really have any control. And you got to just try to be cool to everybody and be an optimist. Jim Muting is an optimist. I used to think I was an optimist till I traveled with Jim. And nothing bugs Jim. He's always like, well, this is the... And the more I do that, I also hold my sticks kind of loose, and I just try to stay in shape. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I try to just stay healthy in that way. but I try to exercise a lot. And I go to a homeopath, Bob Birch's son, and he's got me on this whole regime of vitamins. And believe it or not, there's something called CoQ10 that has a lot to do with your energy. And as you get older, they try to tell you, you need to be on a statin. So I get the panels done, and he says, man, you don't need to be on a statin. You know, you need to be on like exercise and red yeast rice and CoQ10. And I've never felt better because, boy, 6 months of being on Lipitor, woo, I was ready to like, my legs are wobbly. So don't do any of that stuff. I just try to, I mean, I'm not a doctor. I'm not trying to, if you need a statin because you're going to have a heart attack, you're supposed to have a statin. But Jim. Okay, I'm glad you're here. So Edgar Winter, raise your hand if you know who Edgar Winter is. So Edgar says he talks like this, you know. He's kind of a ringleader. He said, "I'd like to introduce the gunslinger of peace and love, Dr. Ringo Starr." And he's always so he says, "Hey Greg, I want you to play when we do Frankenstein in the middle of the show. I want you to do a drum solo." And I said, great, I love drum solos, but instead of a drum solo like, how about if I do a drum solo where I play famous rock beats from songs that people would know? And he's really cool, but he goes, you know, I don't know if that's going to really go over. I mean, that would go over at a drum festival, but I don't know if in a Ringo Starr all-star band show, that would go over. And I said, Edgar, I'll do it tonight. And we were in Toronto. I said, I'll do it tonight. If it doesn't go over, I'll never do it again. All right, that sounds like a deal. You do it. So we're done. He goes, I go, he goes, bam! And the spotlight comes on, and I do a drum solo. So this is what I did. I need you to yell out the names of the songs as soon as I play them. You ready? You might not know them all, but I bet you'll know a lot. So imagine a huge arena full of people, and you go like this. Well, that just happens to lead into another song. Do I have the nerve to play a Ringo groove with him sitting over by the soundboard? I'm going to do it. I love him. He loves me. We'll see. I'll find out on the private plane ride if it was a bad idea. So that tempo just happens to go really well into this. Bingo. Then that one seems to go really well into this one. That one seems to go really well into this. Manic depression, searching my soul. Jimi Hendrix. And we're in Toronto, so I had to go. I had to point at the crowd and go. And they went, woo! And Edgar's looking over at me like. So then I had to go a little memory lane. And then I had to do something we did earlier that evening. Back to Ringo over there going, what's he going to do next? So I did a little Charlie, his friend Charlie. And why not bring another Ringo back in? Ticket to Ride. Then I decided to do a little 1946 Louis Prima. Sing, sing, sing. Gene Krupa, Benny Goodman. Then I go back to, what the heck came next? Oh yeah, a little bit of Michigan rock and roll. Flint, to be exact. We're an American band. Drummer, Don Brewer. Then a little more Ringo, because he's still sitting over there. Tomorrow never knows. Then, I had to do a little bit of Jamie's crying, which was also a Tone Loc song. Do the wild thing. Do the wild thing. And then I think I did one more big Ringo. Ow! And that tempo seemed to work really good for my grand finale to really seal the deal with Edgar. And then just for Edgar, a little bit of crowd pleasing. Here we go. I love you guys. Thank you, Firehouse Guitars. Thank you, Dixon. Thanks very, very much. Please come up and hang out if you can. I don't know what time you have to be out, but if we have time, I'd love to say hi. Thank you, and God bless you.